Yeah, so this is the Drupal Usability meeting for December 7th, 2016. And before the meeting, we discussed to talk about workflow user interface changes and plans for the sprint on Friday in 3 days. Workflow?
Okay, let me share my screen. Okay, so I'm not sure if you remember, a few weeks ago I was presenting the configuration of workflows and how people can moderate them. And there were 3 options for configuring workflows, and we had discussion around it, and some further discussion happening outside of the Hangout. And so this is the proposed outcome. So first we would configure moderation states. Each of the moderation state would have basically a label. You would say if it's published, if it's a default revision, and which transitions, and configure transitions to other states which are defined, and you can edit them at a label transition from to, and save. The list of moderation states would be in a table where you have name, machine name, published, default, and then a list of workflows which use these moderation states. So this would be basically like elements which you can then use to configure the workflow itself. So when we look at the list of workflows, we have always the name, machine name, description, which entity types use this workflow, which states are used in it. So just on the first look, you have some good overview of the workflow itself. And then when you edit it, you obviously set name, description, select which moderation states you want to use. These are already pre-configured in the previous step. And then you can select entity types if you want to filter it to, let's say, a specific content type. Then you can select or refine your selection and save, and then it updates the table. So previously there were 3 different options of the UI used for selecting or refining entity types. And after discussions also with Bojan, this was the proposed, or this came as the winner, as the winning solution. So just having a model where you select and refine and then save. So this is to workflows. Any questions on this or comments?
Can you go to the moderation states once more? I added one, I guess. I did not understand the box here with the transitions. What is it doing here?
So you create a moderation state.
Yeah.
And then yes, so by default, when you install or enable moderation and workflows, you should have 3 states by default, which is draft, publish, and archive.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you need to add new, this is where you add new moderation states, and then you select or you configure the transitions which will. So right now you have to create separately on a separate page the state and transition, and here you are configuring that on a single screen. So the main objective for this is to eliminate the need to go to two different places to achieve the same result. So you define the moderation state itself, and then you define which kind of transitions. So you always transition from this state, from draft, to another state. If you understand.
I think I do. I'm not clear what you can do in the box. You add it there. Okay.
Yes.
You can add it, you can delete, I guess, and you can add the new one.
Yeah. So this is a drop button, so you can edit and delete a single transition, and you can add new transition as well.
Yeah, from looking at that, it's I think it's not really clear what the order in the table means. You know, I think I know what the order means, but I think from just looking at it, it's not totally clear that these are in which what the order signifies and what you can do by reordering the stuff in the table, the transition to the transitions there.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. A quick question here. Historically, the reason for ordering this is just to have it, just to have flexibility to order it when you have a big list, to have the most common used on top, or was there something, some deeper reason for that? Roy, maybe you can, maybe you know.
Why it's reorderable, or?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
If we even need reordering,
Right.
or if it should be just automatically by alphabet.
I think there's probably a most likely next step that you do, or I don't know, maybe. Like if the first so I guess the first one is going to be the primary button on the entity. So if the primary button is moved to trash, because the translation of move to trash happens to start with an A in your language, like it would be alphabetically first, that would be quite a disaster for workflow, right? So I think we need a way to explicitly say the order reason.
Actually, no, because the button will always be just one. So if you want to, I see what you mean.
Yeah, so one of them is going to be the primary drop button label on the node form or the whatever entity form, and if it's moved to trash, then that's likely not what the most common case is.
So this is the order for sorting those items as well.
I think so. That's what I guess. This is how it's going to be
makes
used
a lot
on
of
the
sense.
entity form.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I have a more general question. Is this so there's a patch now to separate the workflow module and UI from the content moderation UI. So is this a patch, or is this a suggested UI on top of that?
So I'm not aware of that patch. Maybe if you can send me a link, I can take a look at it.
Sure.
Who was working on it? Was it someone from the workflow initiative?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the big thing everybody's been working on, I think. Let's see.
Yeah, last 2 weeks I was working on another project, so I'm a little behind.
Yeah, I'm looking for the link because I'm on my phone here. It's a bit harder, but so it's 2779647.
Can you post it to Slack as well?
Let's see.
So add a workflow component UI module implemented in content moderation. And has a link to whatever this UI provides. So yeah.
Can you please paste the link to Slack?
I will.
Thanks.
Here it is.
So I did not yet have a chance to try this out, but my feeling was that screenshots do not really explain where the states are defined in this patch, but it already implements the workflow as a concept.
Yeah.
Concept that encapsulates states and transitions, I guess, maybe. But it's hard to tell from the screenshots whether the transitions are defined within the workflow or globally for the state.
Yeah. Sorry, can you repeat which comment has a link?
22.
22. Cool.
Has screenshots. I would love to set up a test site if my boy allows me to do, because I'm also watching him right now.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. So I don't think
I can fire up a simply test Gabor. Let me try.
Yeah, that would be useful. Yeah. So I think this changes the concepts a bit. Separate workflows instead of what we have in core now, which is list of states and global list of transitions and no possibility for individually named workflows. And your design also includes individually named workflows, right?
Yeah.
So I was not clear if the two, because there's significant overlap between the two, if the two are well or they build off of each other, or
Yeah. So I wasn't aware of these designs. And okay, I'll catch up with the team on this. But I think this was before I started to work on mine, so I think
An error occurred while patching the project. It's the latest patch. Oh wait, which project, which version of Drupal do I choose?
It's 8.3.
8.3.
Yeah.
Branch 8.3. Okay.
Yeah.
That's better. So then I will share screen. Have you seen this screen before?
So my understanding of the current core UI is that you can define global states, and you globally define their transitions. And that on each entity bundle where you enable moderation, you can pick a subset of the states, the global states, and they come with all their transitions that are globally defined, right? So that's the current UI in 8.2 experimental. And then is instead of that, define workflows that encapsulate the states and transitions somehow. And you can define separate named workflows that you can reuse instead of needing to pick from the global set, maybe the same things for different entity bundles. So you can have a named workflow for whatever user registration status and all kinds of other workflows that you may have. Understanding. So you're installing Roy still?
Yeah, am I sharing screen? I am.
Yes, you are.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm inside here. I enabled 2 modules. These 2. Do I need to install anything else?
No.
No, this should be it.
I figured it might live in configuration. It does.
Yeah.
And then there's this default workflow. So what do we want to do? Create a new one?
Yeah, let's try that.
My workflow, of course. It has a type. It's of type content moderation, apparently. It has the label, and then it has states, and it has transitions.
Yeah, so this one basically moves definition and transition definition within the workflow.
Right.
So the current Drupal 8 core behavior is there are global states and global transitions, and there are no individually named workflows. And this one does not have global states and global transitions, I guess, and the states and the transitions within the workflow. So the draft in this workflow is not the same as the draft in the other workflow. Transitions, and they may have different permissions or whatever. And I think what Josef showed us is sort of a hybrid between the two, I think.
Yes, so you have global states and transitions, but you have individual workflows, and then the draft is the same for every workflow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think these two need to be somehow reconciled, especially with the workflow team, because for some reason they are working on this version of the UI, and you are working on a different version of the UI, which is interesting. You need to talk to each other.
Yeah, no, I think it was initially
right.
by
Yeah.
Alex.
So no.
So
no reuse of states.
It was happening outside of workflow initiative initially.
Yeah, I think both have their benefits, I guess. So I think the global states, that was a reason for like having easier views support, for example, that you can have lists all the drafts, and since the draft is the same thing across different workflows, then you can just list all the drafts regardless of which workflow the draft is in. But in this case, it's a different thing. like draft in workflow A and draft in workflow B is not the same.
Mm-hmm.
Oh. Yeah. So I think what the core UI has right now is very complex. This one and your one simplifies it a lot. There are questions of what it means to order transitions and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
clearly need to be figured out if it's viable to change this that they are currently proposing, which is not yet committed, and then to the one that you are proposing, which is not yet implemented.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, I mean, I clicked on this myself, and although it's a bit of clicking, it was quite apparent to me, quite obvious to me what I needed to do, because I create a workflow and it has states, and then I have to transition between it. Can we switch back to your designs, Joseph?
Yes.
Then
By the way, I can send you a link so you can click yourself. But so you have a list of states independently from the workflows, and then when you edit a state, you define transitions within for that state.
I'm sharing again, right?
Okay. Yes.
Or am I?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Let's see. So in configuration, okay. Configuration here has workflows, and then it immediately lists the workflows. Here we have configuration of what is now in this design called moderation.
Yep.
And then we have states and workflows. Okay. Let's click on states. Okay, now here we're making our list of reusable states across workflows.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. These are the states we have. We could edit one. We could rename it. We can set it as something that means it is published. We can set it as the default. And then these transitions. I still don't immediately understand what's happening here. What is the question I can answer here?
So from the state which you are editing now, from draft to other states, you are defining transitions to other states.
But how do I choose one? By editing it? By editing one of the other states?
What do you mean by how do I choose? Because you don't choose, you basically enable them.
I have to. I mean, I'm creating our editing draft. And
so this is just configuring the possible options that you get, like on a node form or a block form when you actually edit a node. So I think the next step is to enable that Josef showed us, is to enabling the moderation support on entities. Then these buttons appear on the node form and the block form and other entities where it's enabled, and there you can pick from these transitions.
Yes, that is correct. So the moderation actually happens when you edit a node or a block or anything else which is which has the moderation enabled. It's actually the same as it's in the core right now. So workflow is basically
yeah, that's the
grouping
sequence.
together which moderation states and which entity types.
Mm-hmm.
And here you are defining states and which transitions, and define, let's say, the or enable transitions for that state. So if you go to back to your or back to the Drupal, which the simple test,
Yeah.
yes, and go to you. Yes, and edit one. Can you scroll down? Yeah, so this actually, can you edit a state?
Oh,
No,
state,
this is
sorry.
transition, yes. Okay, so this is the same as it was originally in the core. So it's basically grouped on the workflow entities page.
Yeah, in core, the way to enable moderation is like go to the content type, and then it has the manage fields and manage display and other tabs, and it has the manage workflow tab and or manage moderation tab, and there you can enable.
Yeah, so this is basically the same screen, but moved within workflow itself. So everything here happens within the workflow, and it's different for every workflow. And
so is this a list of the transitions draft is a part of?
which are defined for draft.
That draft could be a start of, yes. So these are the end states that you can reach from a draft. So if you are editing something that is in draft, then you get a drop-down button with all of those labels.
Draft
Okay,
publish,
yes,
Draft
yeah.
to move to trash, etc. So those are all the possible next states after it's a draft.
yes, exactly.
Building a graph of the states and the connections between them.
So if you go one step up here to moderation states, here you basically define which states are available.
Yep.
And then in next step, when you edit this, you define what basically the button will be when you move to another state, when you move content to another state. So what should the button label be, and what is the use case for that, or where you can actually move. And if you look at the example, yes,
Sorry,
here.
I'm trying to.
Here, yes.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
So here you define states, and then transitions are basically separated. So here the difference is here you are configuring from and to, and in my use case you are only configuring to, because from is defined
Already.
by,
Yes, and that is not clear.
Mhm.
It's I mean it should be obvious that draft is the from I'm working with, and I guess it's not, at least not for me.
So maybe would it help if this transitions label would be transitions from, and then the actual name of the state which you are in. So transitions from draft, and then
something like that.
state.
Yeah, that could help.
Yeah, I agree.
Also, probably that border around transitions is unnecessary.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if that what, from the editing flow, if I'm not looking at the finished thing from the flow, what I'm doing here as a user that, as a site builder that wants to configure that, I might think more from the perspective of what the button label would be. I think there's,
Yeah.
a case can be made that a lot of people think, okay, from draft to draft, from draft to published. But
This is the thing.
since I'm mainly also configuring something that is for the user interface on the node form, it might be that it would be better to move the button label in kind of in front.
Yes.
And so.
Mhm.
So that is not a side node behind like the to state, and then there's the button label.
Because the button
I know
label is
where
basically
this
the
is
name, right, of the transition.
Yeah.
Can you?
Yeah, because the button
click
label,
back?
yes, that's what I'm perceiving as well. Yeah.
Can you show how it's done in the patch?
Sorry, in the patch.
So label is first.
Yes.
Okay.
And this makes it understandable because it has verbs in it. It says create a new draft. It goes from to.
Okay. Yep. This is a good point.
I think that would help a lot.
Okay, I will make this change and then I'll post a link to updated prototype in Slack, so we can take a look at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that it would be important to talk to the folks implementing this patch, because they probably had some arguments around the global state and the local state problem and the global transitions / global / local transitions. So if there's very good reasons for that, then you may want to change the direction of your design.
Right, because we need to at least verify if the road to reusable states is still open, right? Or if this is, yeah, we're probably not going to find it. State 395 matches. No, no, we yeah, that needs to be checked. So, what are our questions? In the current patch, in this patch, states specific.
You have a typo
Workflow?
in the beginning.
Correct? Is this our main question?
Yep. You should remove D in the dispatch.
Yep. Indeed.
There's another question that might be not a question that we put here. I don't know. So from what I understood, you decide to create your own workflow type. You define states, you define transitions, you go there and see, okay, how you label those transitions from one state to a possible other state. So this shows up on the entity that you're moderating. But then, in addition to that, you also go from the context of the entity, and then there you enable which states are applicable, right? So you have another layer of complexity. So you might not enable all the states. So not all transitions might apply to this entity. Or am I totally wrong?
Sorry, can you repeat your question?
Okay, so we create a workflow. For the workflow, we create a couple of states. We create transitions from one state to some others, and then we also we have to enable which content entity those states apply. Right. Mm-hmm. So we might have a list from that there is a transition from draft to needs review, maybe, but needs review does not apply to the content entity. So this is kind of another layer of complexity, right? Because you might define something like this tree that Gabor talked about, and some of the branches are not applying to some content entities, or am I totally wrong? Is this not possible?
Yeah, that's where having local transitions and states makes sure that they always apply, while global states and transitions have that confusing side effect.
Mm-hmm.
So can I see the configuration form for the node again, for this with the case with the local states?
In the patch.
Yeah.
Where do you want me to go?
I don't know.
You want to apply indicate which content types?
No, yeah, didn't I see a configuration form where you say, okay, for nodes, this you not only decide which workflow it is, but you decide which states apply, or was I? Maybe I got confused while why I saw that.
Yeah, I think here you still have to go to.
No, yeah. No, I think that part is clear. But do I have to enable something on the content entity type?
Hey.
Yeah, manage moderation.
Yeah.
Oh,
just select one? Maybe not, take the other one that is already filled.
that has states.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the patch. This is what the patch does.
Yeah.
And so that's all. Core does, what core does now is you pick the states to apply for this content type, and then they bring all the transitions that are between those states, and they don't bring the transitions that states that you did not pick. So yes.
Okay. Yeah. So that
the way in.
Yeah.
Do you know where or how the workflow type is defined?
Right.
I think that's like modules can provide workflow types, and moderation is one of them, and then other modules can define workflow types maybe. But I think that's defined in the UI. So when you created the workflow, you picked that you want to have a content moderation type of workflow, and I think that's defined by some plugin PHP code in the module or something.
Okay.
I believe.
So, for example, there can be different workflows.
That would add to
for
this list.
commerce or something like that.
Yeah, there could be a commerce workflow to buy things, or like a user flow to advanced users, from newbies to 5-star, whatever.
Right. Promote a
So-
taxonomy term to a vetted taxonomy term, whatever. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
just to complete the thing that I was thinking of. So I think this is much better, because I got confused. I mixed kind of the patch and the other thing. So this proposal to just select the the workflow that you want to have on that content type, and then configure all the rest in the workflows configuration. I think I like that very much, because you have all the complexity that you can have is kind of in the configuration of the workflow, and then if you have that, you're done, and you just need to apply that, or to say this workflow is assigned to this article content type or something. So I think that is from a UX perspective, I like that more.
Yeah, but it's even easier in the prototype which I created.
Right, because I'm not sure if
If you go to workflow.
Yeah, because in the patch you need to find all of those moderation tabs on things, and in Josef's you have all of them listed at once, similar to like the multilingual configuration screen where you have everything there, and
so if
you can have an overview of everything that uses the workflow.
And so if here you click on edit, there and scroll down. So you select moderation states and select entity types. And here you actually select all of the, so you don't need to go to a content type configuration, moderation, and select which workflow to use there. But here, by creating a workflow, you are already selecting this.
So here, if I assign it to article, I don't have to configure the content type as I did.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're doing it here. Yeah.
Several clicks.
So here you assign a workflow to a content type from within the workflow configuration. In the current patch, you create a workflow and then you manually edit the content type to subscribe
Yeah,
to this workflow.
Actually, in the patch, you need to select first the workflow type, then you define the workflow, and then you have to go to content type configuration to select, click on content moderation and select then which.
Right, because if I wanted to do this if I wanted to add workflow to the basic page, no, these are not the ones I mean. All right, so either can select one, or there's a handy link to create your own, right? Which is not there.
So maybe a good exercise would be to count steps to get the. I will make a test of both pages and count how many clicks you need to actually do to, let's say, configure a workflow for article.
Yeah, there's number of clicks, and then there's number of sections in the in the admin you have to visit to hook things up, and that's
Yeah, I think there's always a back and forth between putting the configuration on the content type and putting the configuration on the place where the global whatever you want to apply is configured.
Yeah.
So like multilingual is configured globally as you can also configure it per field, but it's very painful to configure it per field on each node type. But there's also checkboxes there if you really want to do that. Like menus are configured on the content type. Different schools of thought, I guess, paradigms. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what is the upper part of the form that we saw in the UX design? So there is select moderation states, and then below I select content types. What does this
Entity
mean?
types.
That the matrix? What do which checkboxes have in a relation from the upper table to the lower table?
So you are defining a workflow. So you select which moderation states you want to apply for this workflow. And then you select which content types you want to enable this workflow for. Or which.
Okay, and the transitions that are defined for the moderation states, they just all apply then.
Yes.
Okay, so I kind of say, hey, I select those 3 moderation states, including their transitions.
Yes.
So, but what happens if there's a transition from draft to needs review and I don't check the box needs review here?
It wouldn't apply.
That transition is not available and not. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's kind of what I meant before with the whole long thing that I was talking about. So you kind of go to draft, configure draft that it has transitions from here to there to those states, and then here you kind of deselect some of the stuff, and it's not totally clear that you did that, because if you go back to editing draft, the transition from draft to needs review will show up again. So
yes, what this does not do is show you which transitions you have available in this workflow.
Yeah.
Yes, but it's a little bit irrelevant because by default, when you have, or maybe not. I was going to say by default, when you create moderation state, then you create all of the transitions. So you have them always available, but maybe in a later stage you create some other state and you don't create transition for that in one of the early states, then they wouldn't be available. But I think that is no different to how it is right now.
Yeah, so I think what the patch wants to do is to have states for other kinds of workflows, and also the whole idea of having a subset of states for an entity type allows you to have sort of different workflows, but you have all the states on the same level and all the transitions on the same level. You just pick different subsets of the states for different things. You have a user workflow and you have a content workflow. You still need to, in this design, you still need to define all their states on the top level on the same level, and then the subsets define the workflows. And it's even possible to pick a subset where none of the states transition to none of the other states, or something like there are no transitions between them. Like if you pick draft and you pick new user and you pick the in cart or whatever, they don't apply usually in the same workflow, or you have a problem.
Sorry, you were breaking up a little.
So can you hear me now?
Yeah, you would have a mixed bag here, right? If you also had states that apply to taxonomy terms, to products, to users, those would also be in this list that we're looking at. And then here you get a very mixed bag of moderation states, and then here you have to carefully pick your states.
One workaround for this, or solution, would be when you define moderation state. So if modules already can define workflow types,
right,
then when you are defining moderation states, you would say for which workflow type this would be. And then when you are creating a workflow, You would select which workflow type, and select moderation states would be filtered only to those.
Yeah, that's true.
And another question, going back to the table that we saw just a second ago, what does published mean in this context? So the node is then published when it's published, and it's not published when it's in draft. And so I thought, those moderation states would kind of, I don't know.
That's so, when you have a look here. If I add a moderation state, I name it draft, and I can check a box. Draft means it is published or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we still have the concept. Yeah, we still have the concept of published, meaning publicly visible.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Workflows can manage the publication state of entities.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, and there's multiple states that could be published.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can have a published state that needs translation, and then you can have an unpublished state that is a draft that is not yet published, or it's archived that used to be published, or it's trashed that is not even supposed to be published anymore. That kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I get it. So. Mm-hmm. I'm really having a problem with this select all at once table if it doesn't show me the transitions, because if I only define transitions from draft to something to some other state that are then not checked, I'm selecting an empty option kind of and stuff, or I select and if only half of those states are unchecked to be applicable to one content entity that I'm selecting, I'm also not seeing those transitions. I would try to find a way, if I have this all in one page where I can select everything, I would at least show what unchecking one of the states means for the transitions that you don't have there.
Yeah, maybe we can show some sort of...
Because from a user perspective, from the content editor that is like the beneficiary of that configuration, it makes a huge impact because he doesn't have those transitions. So yeah. And so it should be clear when I'm as a site builder, I'm configuring that what ends up getting into the form or into what an editor can do. So yeah, I think you can always have that in your head because it's clear. If the state is not there, you cannot transition to that state. But still, it's kind of, it would make sense to see this the context of this configuration option. So, and yeah, kind of, yeah, like when you when you think about our extend page, it also will show up for which modules need to be enabled if you want to enable this module or which and such. So those dependencies need to be shown somehow, I think. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe we can at least show some warning, like you have selected states with no transitions between them, or show the dependencies. I'll think about that.
Yeah, I think we've created some work for Joseph.
That's always good.
Let's see. Based on this, do we have other feedback that we want to add to the issue or questions we have? Not really, right? First, we have to check if the concept Joseph is pursuing, if that's even viable after with the groundwork dispatch lays.
Yeah, I will know that today.
Yeah.
Workflow call.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. shouldn't be too hard to clarify that. Yes.
Yep.
And that will give you well, a clearest idea of the scope you can work within, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Do we still have 5 minutes for
Yes.
the workspaces?
Yes.
Just very quickly to show you a first idea or first draft.
Do I stop screen sharing and you go?
Yeah, I started. So not sure if you remember the wireframes for this. It was
Let's pretend I don't.
a few months ago already.
Yes.
So we had this idea of putting the deploy, it was at that moment, related stuff and workspace related stuff in the toolbar here on top. And there are a few things here. So we can start from right. Deploy, when you click on this, you deploy to defined target workspace. Are you, by the way, familiar with what workspace is? Is everyone familiar with that?
I am.
Yeah, Gabor, you are for sure.
Yeah,
okay.
I'm too.
Okay.
Yeah, I think for the sake of listeners, you're basically packaging stuff in one pack
collection
to handle them together.
Okay, so the idea was to provide an easy way to switch between workspaces and how to move content from one workspace to another. So we had this idea of workspace switcher. This was partly inspired by GitHub when you switch between branches.
Mm-hmm.
So you can either click on, let's say, few most recently used or most popular, or this can be defined, or you can refine your selection and then click on it. If you switch to a workspace which is in different moderation stage, the color here will change, and I will show that in a moment. Then you can update your workspace. So this will automatically pull changes from the upstream.
Right, this is pulling, right?
Yes, this is pull. Oh, what happened there? So it shows your workspace updated. And let's say I want to go to moderate the workspace. So it shows me that blue, its workspace is in draft. I want to moderate it. So this is a detail of the workspace itself. It shows me the moderation status, which is draft. I can change the moderation state. It shows me the machine name for the workspace, default target workspace. And this is the way how filtering is done at the moment. Replication settings on update and on deploy, and a list of all changes. So all of the items which are changed against the selected upstream workspace.
Yeah.
So if I want to change the moderation state, I select here and save. And then it changed to in review. And also this is orange at the moment. Let's say I want to, again, if I update, it will update the workspace, whatever. So I want to deploy. I have to
commit message.
Commit message, basically, yes. So deploy stage to live, because live is the selected target or upstream workspace. Deploy to live. It will first pull all of the changes to make sure that there are that you have the latest data.
Mm-hmm.
It checks for conflicts. If it finds a conflict, it will stop, and you will have to resolve the conflict first. Also, this will change to red because you have a conflict now. So you click on resolve conflict, and it will show you two versions. You have your local and your remote. can select which of these, and you have 3 conflicts. So you cannot continue with deployment because before you resolve all of them, you go to another, again, select which one, to the last one. Okay, you selected everything, and now it just continues with the deployment. After deployment, if the workflow is configured that after deployment it should go to published, then it changed to green, and there are no changes anymore because everything has been deployed to live. So stage at the moment is up to date with the live. And I think that's it for now. Yeah.
Nice.
So live. Oh, and there's one thing, notifications. And this is a new thing because sometimes you, let's say, depending on the permissions, you may not have the rights to actually do the deployment yourself. But I would say you want to deploy, so you click on deploy and do all that, but you don't have rights for that, so it will show you that moderation workspace moderator have been notified about your deployment proposal, and that is where after they, for example, proceed with the deployment, you will get a notification that this campaign has been deployed or something like that. So this is where we are with this right now. And next step, we want to try, I want to play a little bit with this concept of inside out, outside in. So all of these workspace feature and config, this update deploy, try to basically push the whole screen down and sort of have this experience like when you click on, when you're on Mac and then you click this mission control and you have, you know, different workspaces here. So show you which workspaces are available, and then try to sort of embrace that concept a little, but I'm not sure what will come out of that yet. So we'll see.
I like it. It looks quite integrated as a concept already, I think.
Mm-hmm.
No, all the feedback would be details. Maybe the update icon should be the down arrow just to make it.
Yes, yeah. And also, for example, when you are on, it can be that when you're on dev, you shouldn't even be able to deploy, for example. So
Right.
it should be disabled.
There's no upstream there, right?
Yeah. Actually, no. The question here is if it depends on purely on moderation settings, like you need to go from draft, you need to go to in review, and only then you can deploy, because this is blue because it's draft.
Mm-hmm.
So, and for draft, there probably shouldn't be deployed because you need to go to in review. But this can be probably configured per site or per usage. So every organization can have different use cases for that.
Right. Yeah. So that's one thing that's a bit tricky with this is that because we want to be as accessible as possible, color alone as an indicator of state is normally not enough, because some people can't make the distinction between different colors.
Yeah, and that's why maybe if we use outside in concept here, then if we push down, then it can be more visible, or we can put more information there than only here.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it from me for today.
Yes, that's it from us for today as well. Thanks for review, for showing.
Yeah, and thanks for the feedback. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yes.
Have a nice
Thank
week.
you very much.
Have a nice day, all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.